Hello lovely people, welcome back to another video. My name is Kiesha, and as you can tell by the title, today we are going to be back with another episode of book club. And so today I'm really excited to talk about the book, and it is called The 20-Something Treatment by Dr. Meg J. And I really like this book. I really like this author. She is a licensed professional. She's a psychologist, and she does most of her counseling sessions with 20-year-olds, well, not 20-year-olds, people in their 20s, and she has been doing this for a really long time. I think she said something like 30 years. Something that drew me to this book was the fact that she also wrote The Defining Decade, and if you have saw in any of my other vlogs when I talk about books, The Defining Decade is one of the best books of all time in my personal opinion for 20-year-olds, and if you're in your 20s, you definitely need to read that. So jumping right in, this book is a psychologist, and she uses examples with some of her clients about the type of struggles that people in their 20s go through on a regular basis throughout their 20s, really trying to set the foundation that they want and build the life that they want. And with that comes generally a lot of anxiety, some depression, a lot of uncertainty, some uneasy negative feelings, and the added pressure of feeling like this is supposed to be the best time of your life, and why doesn't it feel so great? So in this book, she talks about those things. So I'll share a few of the things that really stuck out to me in this book. So like I said, Dr. Meg J, which is the author of the book, is a licensed professional, and she has been counseling 20-somethings for the past 30 plus years. And one thing that she kind of starts in the beginning of the book is talking about the prescription of anti-anxiety, antidepressant medications to people in their 20s and how there's a rise. So one thing that she said was, medication is sometimes, but not always, the best medicine, yet more and more young adults are in danger of becoming over-medicated and over-diagnosed. Mental illness and mental struggles are a very real thing, but I feel like as a society we've reached to a point where it's so normalized. Like sometimes if you just go to the doctor, you can say, hey, I'm feeling depressed, and they'll give you an antidepressant and not really look too deeply into it. And so it's caused a lot of people to be on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications. Not that there are some people that don't need those, which she talks about in the book, because they can be very helpful, but sometimes we're jumping straight to that and not necessarily getting at the root of the problem, which could be like you are feeling such uncertainty in your job and it's causing you a lot of anxiety, and therefore you get an anti-anxiety medication, as opposed to maybe this is not the career for us and it's not sustainable, so maybe if we get to the root of that, it will lessen our anxiety. So she talks a lot about that, which I really appreciate, while also not invalidating the needs of people that need those types of medications. The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest of fear is the fear of unknown. Sometimes as people in our 20s, our emotions can get the best of us, and they feel very paralyzing at some moments, and that can stop us from making decisions and reaching our goals, which is not what we want to do, and in turn that can make us feel very negative about our situation, about our lives. And in this book she really talks about different ways that we can get to the root of it, really asking questions why, as opposed to thinking that we are just broken and we have to stay this way. There is a remarkable human capacity to adapt to both prosperity and adversity. One thing people do have a hard time adapting to is uncertainty. I feel like this is such a great quote because our 20s are so uncertain. We're uncertain about our jobs, our careers, our education, our relationships, whether that be our platonic relationships, our romantic relationships, where we want to live, some family struggles even, and I think something that would help us, well, not that I think, it's what she talks about in the book, something that would help us with that sort of uncertainty is, for one, embracing it because there's a freedom in it, but for two, it's also, if we learn how to really manage our emotions as they relate to uncertainty, it will have us navigate through our 20s just a little bit better. I think a reference that I have heard is being your 20s feels like you're in the middle of the ocean and it's ocean in all directions and you don't even know which way to go because you just feel so like lost. But I think that's where the power of choice comes in to play. We have to make a decision, and which leads me to another amazing quote that I read in the book. Being a 20-something is like being an airplane soaring into the sky just after takeoff. It's a time when a small change in course can make an enormous difference in terms of where you land with work and love and life. The 20s are an up-in-the-air, turbulent time. The best way to navigate that uncertainty and wind up somewhere better is to learn how to fly your plane. The skill you gain in your 20s accompany you wherever you go across jobs and cities and relationships and decades. And unlike health insurance, they never run out. Which is different because when you turn 26, you're getting kicked off your parents' insurance. And I think there's something so freeing about realizing, like, yes, there's uncertainty and big decisions need to be made, but we have the privilege of having time. It gives you a more freeing kind of like aura, kind of vibe, if you know what I'm saying. Now, for me personally, work has never been a point really of uncertainty for me. Especially post-grad. I just got I don't even want to say lucky because I did put in the work for that. My first job post-grad, I was recruited before I even walked across the stage for graduation, and I got to work in a really amazing company with really amazing people. My management was amazing. Everything was amazing. And from that job, I was recruited to another job, which again, it's so amazing. And with both jobs, I had the privilege of working and having work-life balance. But outside of work, there was a lot of uncertainty almost in every other realm. And that's why this part of the book really, it really hit home with me, because I've always had stability as far as work is concerned, but as every other area, like post-grad in my 20s, it was really difficult. The single biggest driver of positive personality change in adulthood is work. Across our 20s and 30s, we become more emotionally stable as we age, and believe it or not, we largely have our jobs to thank. She goes on to say, work forces growth and change in a way that few of us can accomplish on our own, or even with our therapist. Sure, we might all need to take a so-called mental health day once in a while, but showing up for work is in fact good for us, and maybe even better for us than anything else. I am a testament to that because I've had such stability in work that it's kind of grounded my life and made me more stable in all the other areas that I was trying to work through. And I know not everyone has that luxury, especially given their current political climate, but I think work, no matter what that means to you in the capacity, your job has a way of really stabilizing your life. And I'm not just talking about financially, I'm talking about the routine of getting up and being responsible and knowing you have to commit to something. It is the best thing. While I wish I could just not have to work, though. I will say that I'm not somebody that dreams of working, but I do think what she's saying about work, there is so much truth to that. So if you've read The Defining Decade, then you probably know what identity capital is. If I'm not mistaken, I think the author of this book coined the term, but I'm not entirely sure. I just remember that being a chapter in Defining Decade, and in this book, she also touches on it as well. So I'll define it for you just so you know. So she says, identity capital, this term refers to the things we've done that add value to the person we are. It is how we invested in ourselves, not just as professionals, but as people too. As a 20-something, time is your most valuable resource, and identity capital is what you have to show for how you spent your days and your years so far. She talks about how our identity capital is our resume of life. It's our school, our hobbies, our activities, like what really makes us us. And when I read this, so she really expounded on identity capital in The Defining Decade. And I read that book probably 4 or 5 years ago now. And I feel like it really lit a fire under my butt. One, just because I feel like I'm really like goal oriented. I'm really determined. I really want to make the most of my life. And like, so if I have a hobby, if I have a goal or something, I give myself the best chance and possibility to achieve that. And so when I saw the thing about identity capital, it made me ponder, like, what can I do to build my identity capital, my resume of life, you know? And I felt that it was incredibly inspiring, because when I near the end of my life, I want to be happy with myself and know that I gave myself like every possibility to be the person I wanted to be. And then also people can be like, hey, that girl, that is a multifaceted girl, okay? Like she does it all. She's smart. She, you know, is well traveled and educated and all the things, you know. In acquiring those things, I think it builds self-confidence. Like me getting a higher education builds self-confidence. Me being really good at, I don't know, playing instruments or being able to edit my YouTube videos or whatever the case may be. It just helps you build more self-confidence in yourself, no matter what those things are. So I encourage anyone to, you know, go have a hobby. Just build up your identity capital. While not knowing the right answer can make forward movement feel difficult, that same uncertainty can free us from the feeling we have gone the wrong way. When you accept there aren't any right answers, then you realize there aren't any wrong answers. There are only your answers, and that's what decisions are made. Career is a choice, community is a choice, partnering is a choice, parenting is a choice, purpose is a choice. But that's the paradox of purpose. Purpose is a choice, but once you make it a commitment to something or someone outside of yourself, it doesn't feel like a choice anymore. It feels like an imperative, like something you can't just walk away from. This is just like a reminder that while life feels so uncertain in our 20s, we have the choice to make whatever life that we want. And, you know, if you need to write that down, write it down. No matter how hard things may seem right now or how difficult the decisions are, everything is a choice. And, you know, you just think about the bigger picture and how you want to reflect back on your 20s once you're no longer in your 20s anymore. And then kind of piggybacking on that, she kind of touches on hope and having hope, which I am, again, a testament to that. Like I said, I've had amazing stability career-wise, but otherwise in my 20s, I have not. And I think hope, in addition to my career stability, has made me better able to make decisions outside of my professional career. So, paired with choice, we also have hope. To be hopeful means to be uncertain about the future, to be tender towards possibilities, to be dedicated to change, all the way down to the bottom of your heart. Hope begins with uncertainties and unknowns. And that's just where we are. We are in our 20s with a bunch of uncertainties, a bunch of unknowns, but we have to have hope and we have to make the choices ourselves. And then one of the quotes at the end of the book, which I really, really loved, it says, "The most precious thing in life is its uncertainty. Leaving something incomplete makes it interesting and gives the feeling there is room for growth," which luckily we had the privilege of having because time was on our side as 20-somethings. Now that I've touched on, you know, some things in the book that really stuck out to me, that really resonated, that I felt like I should share with you, I rated, I feel like a lot of the things weren't things that I didn't already know. So for that reason, I'll give it like an 8 out of 10, but I think they were all good reminders. To me, this wasn't earth-shattering because I've read, like The Defining Decade was like, blew my mind. And some other books that I have read blew my mind. And so while this comes at it from like a different perspective, from a doctor's perspective, I like it. And I appreciate all the information. I appreciate the way it's framed. So I'll give this book a 8 out of 10, and I definitely recommend it. And so go ahead and read the 20-something treatment. So this was my, what month is this? This was my March read. So our next read for the month of April is going to be Let Them by Mel Robbins. And I had no idea who Mel Robbins was until there was a trend on TikTok, and it was a sound of her with a guest on the podcast, and it said every woman should be able to do 11 push-ups, and not the ones where you cheating with your knees on the ground. You need to be doing 11 push-ups. And it was like a trend. And a friend of mine we have like a book club, and she said, oh, let's read this book. And I was like, okay. So since then I've started listening to the Mel Robbins podcast, and I'm also reading this book. So we will recap on Let Them, because I've just started. I'm only like a little bit through, as you can see. So when April is over, we are going to recap, and I will see you guys in the next book club read. Bye.